Good morning. If if the home builders are making money, then it's good for all of us. That's really an important measure of our success in the real estate business. That's a barometer we use. You know, I'm the managing principal of NewQuest Crosswell, which we're really the entrepreneurial side of NewQuest. And NewQuest is a $1.5 billion shopping center owned company, long-term holders. And primarily what we're into right now is grocery-anchored shopping centers on the NewQuest side. NewQuest Crosswell, I'll get into a little bit of that later about our entrepreneurial side. But moving forward, the economic overview, CPI is something we follow a bit. And right now, as you can look at this slide here, our measurement against the U.S., we fall when the U.S. falls. However, we don't fall as hard as they do. And when it's time to run, we run harder than they do in Texas, and particularly in Houston, as you can see here, where Houston outstrips Texas a little bit. So Houston's been a great place for 4 years. And there we go. This is the consumer index right here. I mean, it's right now we're at kind of highs. This doesn't show the last month, but the last month there's been a little slide in our CPI across the country, and a little intimidation here from you look at the news, and first thing they lead off with 2, 11, and 13, price of oil, what's going to happen? It was $140, $107, now it's $60. Where's our bottom? What happens? I left the house this morning at 6:30 in a suit. My wife goes, "Oh God, we're in a recession again?" And so and I said, "Not yet, but I'm getting ready." And so e-commerce is a big part of our retail business, and everybody here, I'm sure, has a computer and they shop on e-commerce. Now you can shop on your phone. It isn't as impactful as you might think. In fact, there's plenty of data around that shows now companies that are coming to us to lease space in bricks and mortar are started on the e-commerce without bricks and mortar. So at 6% of the gross retail sales, it's really not that impactful, and the gross retail sales number's grown because of it. So far, we haven't seen a really big impact from that number. This is some forecasts here for our holiday sales, and this year's supposed to be up a bit. Like I said, this doesn't take into account for the last 3-4 weeks, but the rumor is, and the sentiment of the Black Friday and e-commerce Monday is that it's pretty much up 2% or 3% of what they think it's going to be. So seasonal employment is going to be really high, and we're seeing that with all the retailers, particularly in the Sun Belt. I put the slide in here. We've used this a couple years in a row. This shows kind of where Best Buy was in the trenches, and I use Best Buy because it cross sections everybody from 15 to 75 on that kind of either go online to buy electronics, et cetera, or actually go to the bricks and mortar building. And here you can see where it was really in the dumps back in 11, 12, and 13. It's moderately come back out, and now it's kind of breaking even. Internationally, it's still suffering. International size of retail is pretty tough. Kroger, which we do a whole bunch of Kroger work, they're doing very well. They have a great market share here, and the supermarket sales 5.6 in third quarter. They seem to just repeat that over and over and over again. And this is the 44th consecutive quarter of positive identical supermarket sales. They're doing well. This is an impactful slide here. This is Houston's population. So since 2011, we've basically grown about 450,000 people. Well, I don't know the stats in our state of Texas, but I got to think that would be about our 5th largest or 6th largest city. And we've all done it in the last 3.5, 4 years. So a lot of people are moving to Houston, Texas. There's no doubt about it. That's why Will's making a bundle right now. The Houston retail market, it's really been go north and go west, young man. I mean, that's where it's happening. What's been the predominance of the shopping center business is the grocery anchored business. It's a very it's pretty simple. It's the Kroger and H-E-B. Whole Foods has been taking a bit of the market. Jonathan and I spoke last night about this, and he shares a sentiment a little bit, but it's a tough. Whole Foods are different than H-E-B and Kroger. They're I mean, their run's going to not be as long and lasting as the Kroger and H-E-B providing to more of the masses. Currently, we have a fair amount of development going on in our town. These are some slides here that show current development, and these are large, mainly grocery-anchored shopping centers. As you can see from these slides right here, I'll show you a couple of our site plans in a moment, but it's mainly Kroger, Walmart. We put some Walmart in there. They have a grocery element to it, and H-E-B. And those are the primary drivers of the development business today. In the past, I would say the first 7 years or 8 years of the 2000 era were 75% of the development was power. Power being Target, Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's. Well, I travel an awful lot and I drive around. I hadn't seen a whole lot of Target developments going on. We haven't seen any in Houston in probably 5 years. So that power center business is tough. It's long. It takes a very long time to develop. We think we use 5 years from the time you really close on the property to the time you stabilize, about a 5-year period of time. So the risk and return is tough. The grocery anchored business really is what is driving our market today. It's an anchor of Kroger, H-E-B, Whole Foods, and say 20,000 feet of what we call inline space and 3 or 4 pad sites. It's fairly simple, and and the returns are good. So that's where the primary part of the business. This slide right here shows us some of the new retailers that have come to town. Some of them are not necessarily new to the name, but they are expanding actively. Fiesta, Sprouts, Aldi, Trader Joe's, Costco, Five Below, Unleashed. These are all guys that are really active in our market today to try to find sites based on the economics following home growth. And frankly, they can't find the space because we don't have the space. We're not reproducing the space in the retail side. There's very finite amount of retail available. For the first time in a long time, we have been able to move the ledger on our rents. The office guys have been able to make a fortune, the industrial guys have been able to make a fortune, and retail's been kind of bouncing along. And finally, in the last 18 months, we've been able to move the metric of our stabilized rent. Forever, for 6 years, we build a grocery anchored shopping center and we get $22 or $23 rent. That's it. We give about $20 a TI, $7 or $8 triple nets. Well, now, because of the finite amount of space available and a large amount of demand from the national tenants moving in, that number has moved literally 35% or 40% to $30 or $32 for your end caps and $28 for your inline. Makes a big difference in our returns. Now, that's starting to balance out because our land costs have really gone up tremendously. So that brings me to this right here. So our sales comps, Transwestern provided these to me because at New Quest we don't sell, so it's hard to get any comps. And so the trades that have happened have been right along the lines of where you think. The product that's older with a less national credit in it has been traded in the 8.5, 9.5 range. The credit grocery anchored sales that have traded have been more in the 6.5 range. So that is really your swing. It's very fluid market. Your Transwesterns, your HFFs, your CBREs of the world, they do a great job, and they get on the market, it's typically going to bring multiple buyers. And it's been good. It's been a very good fluid market. I see that continuing just because there's really not a lot of places for return. Even though these returns don't seem great to some they've got captive money. This slide right here shows an average cap rate of where everything else has been, and you can see how steep that shopping center curve has been, because that's in the last few years. That we've finally got to the point to where we're getting down there with the cap rates. We're not quite there with the industrial guys or the apartment guys, but it's in the market where it's balanced. I don't see it compressing much more, and I really don't see it expanding. It's a pretty fluid market today. I've run through a couple of these slides of centers that we're doing today. This is our Chambers Town Center. It's out in Chambers County, 146 and I-10. It's Walmart anchored. Walmart's open, under construction, and Cinemark's just signed a lease under construction. This is the type of product that we build. $23 million center, 300,000 square feet. This is another Fairfield Marketplace, Kroger, $30 million. Grand Morton Town Center. This is another. It's like Morton and Grand Parkway, two sides of the street. We actually own the third side of the street as well, but this is the retail side, and this is a $50 million center. Grand Parkway Town Center, $150 million project up at southwest corner, 249 and Grand Parkway. This is a really large project. This is all driven by Grand Parkway. I mean, west of Grand Parkway has opened up so much, and it's going to open up because it's not open yet, but it has opened up so much speculation of new retail because there's access that was never there before. And same with Will, that's where a lot of the home builders, I mean, as Will said last night at dinner, you know, a guy who's getting in the home building business right now, who's got some money and capacity and abilities, he could just camp out between I-10 and 290 west of Grand Parkway for the rest of his life and do well. That's just where it all's happening. This is another deal we have out in Katy. As you see, we do a lot of Kroger work. $30 million project we're building right now. Here we are, 96, Hobbs and League City. This is another Kroger anchor deal. As you can see, we have about somewhere in the neighborhood about $300 million in our pipeline currently, and we don't see it stopping in the business. It's pretty constant due to the expansive growth of the single family. Our rent numbers would have zero pushback. We're not getting the type of pushback I think Jonathan's probably going to start getting, and probably Welcome's going to start getting from the tenants. Our tenants they don't talk about the oil business that much, but it's going to be there. So our focus today is really on single tenant buildings, and we have built a platform we've got now 3 people work for us just on this platform. That is to build non-credit build-to-suits for franchisees and franchisors in their expansion. You can see on one of these slides that was on there earlier, Slim Chicken is a group out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. They're they have 14 units, and they're going national. We'll build 8 of their units in Houston in the next 15 months. These are non-credit. Sounds like sounds like we're kind of like some kind of hard money lender, but in a way it is. And so these guys don't have the capacity to expand fast enough to meet their area development agreements per their franchisors. And so we come in and provide the capital and expertise in the real estate to expand it. So we're doing deals in Phoenix and Denver and Houston, San Antonio, Dallas. We're in North Carolina. We're working in Florida, and we're starting to try to work some stuff in the northern part of California. And so we set up at we go out and we market our ability to finance guys that can't get financing traditionally through banks and raise money through capital sources. So that business is doing very well. It's got a risk element to it, but the difference I find in doing business with these guys is, like I was telling these fellas last night, you know, I get a personal handwritten thank you note when we finish one of their buildings. We make our money, they make their money, or a case of wine or something like that, or a box of wine, and sometimes box wine. And so, but with the national credit guys, they're 85% of the capital out there is chasing 15% of the business, and so it's a wide open space, and we're expanding it. So we really like that part of the business.